Hey guys, how's the audio? Still tweaking a few things and then we'll get started here. Is the audio good? Audio's good? Sweet. So, a couple of things, some fun things. I've been working on making my stream look a little bit more presentable. So, you'll notice that the format's a little different. The chat should be a little bit less intrusive and more of a compliment than a nuisance. So in the bottom left corner, I kind of added some like opacity to the chat. Also, the banner that advertises my stream, it'll be flashing in and out, so it'll be a lot less intrusive and take up a lot less of the space. So just adding a few things to improve the quality here, so that whenever I make the charts full screen, everyone can see a lot more information, because I know that's been a complaint in the past. Also, one more thing. So I just got a notification from Twitch that I'm like 2/3 or halfway or whatever the hell it is to being a Twitch partner. So if you guys are interested in helping me do that, one easy way you can do, or one easy thing that you can do is just, instead of watching it on YouTube, like watch one of the streams via Twitch, and that adds to like their stats, or their metrics that they use to qualify people for that. So if you're interested in helping me out there, I'll be popping back and forth between YouTube and Twitch. So if you want to watch it on Twitch, I'll post the Twitch link in the YouTube chat, and yeah, you're more than welcome to join over there. So there's the Twitch link right there. I feel like I have one more thing to say, but I can't remember. That should be good for now. All right, so first things first, we'll start with Bitcoin, because Bitcoin rules the world. So let's go ahead and let's look at the higher time frames, and then we'll work down to lower. Start on the 1-day chart, and we'll work down to like the 2-hour and 4-hour charts. All right. All right. Okay. All right. So zooming out, I'm gonna leave these EMAs on there. We got the 50 and the 200, but I'm gonna change them a little. The thickness needs to go down. So really common EMAs to use for charting are going to be 50 and 200. 50 is going to be the faster, and 200 is going to be the slower. So the red is the 200. So when we're looking at the parabolic trend, you see it's just now snaked below the parabolic curve, and it's back inside the envelope here. But we're not out of the clear yet, because as we zoom in a little closer, we actually see that we're testing the support of the 50 EMA, which you can think of as like the first line of defense on the macro scale. So you see we tested it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times now. You could argue 6, but we'll just say 5. All right, so we have 5 tests here. And the 5th test is finding support at the moment. But as we look at the Bollinger Bands here, we see that we're starting to consolidate about the center line. It's not happening aggressively, but if we look down at the BBW, which is this indicator right here, you can see it right here, BBW. It might be covered by the chat, but BBW is the Bollinger Band width, and then %B here. But you can see here that we're starting to gradually squeeze on the 1-day chart. And as we start to get closer, we see signs that we're actually starting to look a little bit bearish in the short term. Let me get rid of the Bollinger Bands now. As we start to slowly snake our way below this 50 EMA. So on the 12-hour, we're below the 50 EMA. As we get down to the 6 hour, we're testing the 200 EMA, and now we're below it again. You can see that, I'm going to pull up my pen here. You can see that the 200 and the, let's make this black, the 200 and the 50 are starting to converge here, which typically, if you're not familiar with the terminology, there are two kinds of significant crosses between the 50 crossing the 200. One is a golden cross, so if this is the 200 slow and this is the 50, when the 50 crosses up, this is called a golden cross, and when the 50 crosses down, this is called a death cross. It basically just signifies that long-term trends short-term trends are starting to lose momentum, and they're going to start dipping below the 200 EMA, and that's what we see on the 240. We see the first daily, or the first few candles are actually below. Let me get rid of these trends here. We see right here that the first few candles of the 4-hour chart are actually below the 200, and so this right here is going to be the first sign of what is called a death cross right here, right? So what does that mean? Well, right now not a whole lot, but if we go back through Bitcoin's history, every time it's crossed on the 4-hour, there has been some significant pullback. So we see pullback here, we see pullback here, and we see pullback here. So that doesn't mean anything yet. There's a big difference between what's going on now and what's happened in the past. What's happened in the past is that the drop, these steep drops, so like steep drop here, has catalyzed the cross. We see a steep drop here that catalyzed the cross, and we see a steep drop here that caused the crossing. But what's different now is that we're actually consolidating below. So this is actually a different sort of price activity. Typically, it would have been a sharp drop, and then the lagging indicator would have followed. But now this is actually leading the trend because we're consolidating below. So this is a very interesting point in Bitcoin trend, which means that a long-term trend could be a slow bleed before a drop, or maybe a slow bleed before a pop up. So nothing definitive to say for Bitcoin at the moment, but just know that bullish momentum is very lacking at the moment, and it's actually below significant indicators in the market. And as we go to higher time frames, these start to look a little bit more bearish. The fact that we broke below this parabolic trend isn't the end of the world, but you see that we're closely approaching the second parabolic trend here, which means that that could be a pretty significant event if it breaks below it. If we do break below it, we see support on the linear trend lines, but just something to keep an eye on. All right, let's see. Any questions? No. You guys have any questions about what I just said for Bitcoin? And I actually just turned on a space heater, so let me know if that's like too loud. I can barely hear it, but so it shouldn't really pick up on your end. But it is cold as shit here. Any questions about that stuff? Look at the 1 week BTC. Okay. What do you want me to look at this for? The fact that there are lower lows doesn't mean anything. The fact that there are higher lows doesn't mean, oh, higher lows? Not directly. Just because, let me look at the 6 hour. So that doesn't really mean a whole lot. if we look at the past Bitcoin corrections, they've all had higher lows leading into them. So like right here, for example, higher lows before the pullback, higher lows before the pullback, and now we're seeing higher lows. So that doesn't mean a whole lot. Just because there are higher lows doesn't mean that it's like bullish, because this could be a symmetrical triangle, which means it has a pretty steep price target downward, which is what happened here. Something like that. That's what happened here. And that's what happened here. So just because it's making higher lows doesn't mean, you know, you got to take it into context. That makes sense? So what does this mean? In the grand scheme of things, it means that Bitcoin could potentially either see, it's loading up for something. So if we look at the Bollinger Bands, we see that they're starting. Oops. If we look at the Bollinger Bands, we see that they're starting to. God damn it. We see that they're starting to consolidate. So if we look at the B bands on the 12-hour, I'm sorry, the 1 day, we see they're starting to consolidate. The longer price stays at this center line of the Bollinger Bands, the tighter they'll get. But at the moment, it's at an average width. So if we draw like a line here, so let's make this like this. So we're looking at, this is the Bollinger Band width. So this is the width of the Bollinger Bands, like right here. So you can see that if the bands are wide here, then the indicator is high, and when the bands are tight, the indicator is low. So we see here that we're actually like around an average squeeze level for the daily. These are the daily candles. So if we draw like a little line, we see that we're actually not like, we're fairly consolidated relatively, right? So, you know, just because you don't see like a tight bottleneck like this on the daily, you know, something like this, doesn't mean that it couldn't break out. Like, this is fairly consolidated. And if we look at something like the 120-minute view or the 240-minute view, you know, like we don't really see a whole lot of action, and once again the bands are fairly consolidated. You know, if we look here, they're fairly squeezed. So we could see some price action fairly soon, but for the moment it just seems content to consolidate until something significant happens. But just know that the signs of a bear market are slowly trickling in. Right here on the 4-hour, look for it on the 6-hour. As the bands start, as the EMAs start to converge, and yeah, so a lot of things to overcome at the moment. And if we're looking at the distribution phase that I've been talking about for God knows how long, you know, it's playing right into it. So if we look at the distribution phase from this perspective, you know, it all looks, you know, right on track for a distribution, right? So we see swelling volume on the way down. We see decreasing volume on the rides back up. Not saying you should just like panic sell, but I'm saying keep an eye out for it. Could it go below 10K? Oh yeah, absolutely. If this thing breaks down. So just a quick and dirty price projection here. Let me clear this off. Quick and dirty price projection. If we consider this to be a symmetrical triangle, which I don't see any reason why you can't argue that, so it'd be something like this. something like that, something like this. This would have a, so let's just call this 20K, and let's call this 11K, just to be generous. This would be a 9K move. So if this breaks out to the bottom, expect a negative 9K move to the bottom, which in this case, if it broke below this, it would find support, you know, around like 6K or so. A break below this trend line is significant. If price breaks below this, hold on to your butts because it's about to get fucking rough. Okay, shall we move on to more interesting coins? Because I find Bitcoin to be fairly boring at the moment. So let's move on. First thing I want to talk about is Ether Bitcoin, because I think that's pretty interesting. Oh yeah, look at this. This is great. So if you watch the stream on Friday or Saturday, I forget. I think it was Saturday. I talked about, this is something that I was watching on the macro level. So this is a B-Band's double top. So this would be a B-Band's, what John Bollinger calls an M top. This is Ether Bitcoin. This is a sort of pattern. It's different than a normal double top. A normal double top, if it, let's say this is like the neckline, right? Price breaks up, it returns the neckline, it goes up, and it goes back down. A typical price target for a double top is the length of the neckline to the head projected downward. So if this length is 5, price target would be -5 from the neckline. B-Band's double tops are a little different, and this is like beautiful textbook 12-hour double top here. Typical price target for B-Band double top is, well, first, this is how you identify it, right? So you have a high. Let me get my B-Band's indicators here so you can see it. So you see a high relative to the B-Bands right here. So and this is right here. And then an absolute high in price, but it's lower relative to the B-Band. So this sort of price activity right here, this is called a B-Band's double top. And what gives us confidence that it's actually going to return back down is this guy right here. The B-Bands are rounding out, showing decreased volatility is forecasted. Typical price target, first price target is going to be the midline, and the second price target is actually the bottom of the B-Bands. That doesn't mean it's just going to go, you know, shitting relentlessly, but because the longer it stays above the midline, the more aggressive this is going to come up with every candle. So, you know, we could see something pull back to like 0.075 before it bounces back up or consolidates at this level, which isn't terribly surprising. You know, it's not the end of the world. It doesn't mean that like Ether is going to go into like a sustained bear market, but you know, you just got to take into account that like it's seeing strong resistance here, and it just needs to consolidate. So, you know, it's most likely going to come back and just retest this support level, you know, or like right here. This is not terribly surprising if this happens. So come back, maybe bounce off here, and then continue upward. But I would be very surprised to see any more aggressive bullish behavior from Ether Bitcoin. You know, and it's had a good run, so it just needs to chill out before it continues upward. But all in all, I'm still very bullish on Ether Bitcoin, even though on the 12-hour I see a brief pullback in its future. Okay. What else? Yeah, of course we're going to talk about Neo. So, so Neo is an interesting case at the moment because if we're looking at Neo Bitcoin on the macro level, we see that it's in a nice trading range, and it quite obviously looks like accumulation. For those who have been watching the stream, this is like textbook accumulation here. You know, we got the buying climax, automatic reaction low right here. This would be a secondary test where it fails to make a new high. Secondary test of the lower boundary. Another secondary test that kind of fails to rally. And then here's the creek. Boom. And then we see the jump across the creek, and now it's beginning markup. But now, at the time of this stream, it is testing the upper limits of the trading range. So I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing pull back a little bit. This is called a BUEC. That movement is called BUEC. Back up to the edge of creek. Back up to edge of creek. And so the idea is basically like this. So you know, you see from the top, you see a creek like this. Let's make this blue. So you see a creek like this, but it also branches off into a couple other creeks. So this one has 3, something like that. And so the idea is that it's most likely going to see a bit of a retrace before it continues upward to break out. It doesn't have to happen, but it's just pretty common that it happens. So you see a BUEC here, you see a BUEC here, and we haven't quite seen one here. So I wouldn't be surprised to see it pull back, retest this level here at, what is it, 0.0, I don't know what that is. Whatever this level, it's blocked off. What is it, 0.0115? So 0.0115. Wouldn't be surprised to see it retest this level before it continues upward. So wouldn't recommend FOMOing into Neo right now. I think you'll get a better price, you know, in the coming days, because this is 6 hours, so it's not just gonna pull back and then go. Like it's gonna do something like this, where it has a slow bleed and then it takes off. So keep an eye out for this price level here at 0.115, because that's where I think it's gonna retest. I mean, or it could just completely break out. It doesn't have to do that, but I don't like to chase breakouts. I like to catch the breakout, or, you know, buy somewhere in here. And so I'll be looking to get long right in here. Okay, so that's Neo BTC. And if we look at the USD pair, let me get rid of this Ichimoku stuff. The USD pair, let me get on an exchange that has longer history. Neo USD. Okay, if we look at the USD pair, we see that the USD pair recently broke out of reaccumulation. Should we throw B bands on there? All right, so here's the 50 EMA. Let's make this blue. Here's the 50 EMA, and let's throw the 200 EMA on there. Oops. Let's throw 200 on there. Make it red. So very bullish for the USD pair. Let me get rid of that. And we can see here that it actually broke out of, the USD pair actually broke out of accumulation here. So you see the TR here. And, you know, maybe something like that. So this was all accumulation, and now it's in markup. So, you know, like I said before, the BTC pair is probably going to pull back a little bit, which may or may not result in a pullback from the USD pair. But if it does, I would expect to find support on the 50 EMA, just like it's done, you know, all these times before. I would be surprised to see it pull back to the 200, but, you know, it'll most likely find support there. But we're looking bullish. Both the slope of the 200 and the 50 EMA are looking solid. So just to rehash on what we talked about before, we see a death cross here golden cross here, and it kind of flip-flopped around in here, but ultimately now we see the 50 above the 200, and it's all systems go for a markup on USD, but I think it'll see a temporary pullback to the 50 EMA here. Wouldn't be surprised. In fact, I would bank on it. Like, I'll be looking to place some buys on the 200 EMA. Most realistically, it'll find support here, and then the 50 will catch up to it. So probably retest this previous high. There's nice support there, right around the 130. So that's Neo for you. Let me look over at is this actually live? Yes, it's actually live. What do you mean? I'm not just like recording. Hey, can you do QUTM? Yeah, I'll do QUTM. Just let me get through my thing. Okay, let's look at EOS, because we were talking about that on the last stream. So let's look at the larger view on EOS as well. So let's look at the, let's look at the 360-minute view. So this is the USD. Let's go to the BTC pair, and then we'll go to the USD pair. So 4-hour view of the BTC pair. So it had a bit of, it had a reaccumulation trading range here. Let's make this blue. So here's reaccumulation in here, and we see the breakout, the retest of the high, and then now it continued upward. And now it's making this like bull flag, bull pennant kind of thing. But what's most important about this is the are the B bands. So the B bands are starting to consolidate, and I likely wouldn't expect to move. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but I wouldn't expect to move until the 6-hour B bands are a little bit more consolidated. You see that it really doesn't like to make big moves until there's a nice squeeze on the 6-hour, even here. So I would like to see a little bit more consolidation out of the B bands. Probably even the volume needs to go down a little bit more, but you know, I'd like to see a little bit more of a squeeze out of the B bands before the next line of markup happens. Or I could consolidate and make another reaccumulation in here. You know, it had a pretty big price move from the last reaccumulation. You know, here's reaccumulation right here. Might make another new high, something like this. So, you know, see how it pulled back, the B bands consolidated, saw another markup, and consolidated in here. So maybe we'll get one more high, you know, push up out of the B bands. But as in terms of like EOS BTC movement, I think it needs to consolidate a little bit more because the B bands are still pretty spread out, and they need to squeeze in just a little bit more. And then likewise, you know, if we go to the USD pair, same sort of story. So we see the B bands that are pretty spread out, unconsolidated volume. 4-hour looks pretty consolidated, but I think the 6-hour needs to consolidate a little bit longer before we see another push upward like this. And if we look at the B band width, we see that it really likes to break out right around this level here. You know, somewhere in this range, right in here. So I think it just needs to consolidate a little bit longer, and then we'll see another markup. But in terms of trend, I think it's incredibly bullish at the moment. Macro bullish. Now, where's XMR? So XMR looks great. So if we look at XMR on like the 240-minute view, it's looking incredibly bullish right now. Disregard this wick here, but we see classic signs of reaccumulation here, and there's a bit of a trading range in here as well. So if we draw out the trading range, we see very clear signs that it's ready to mark up because no more lower lows. There's a pretty, rough and dirty trend going on here, but we're making higher highs overall, higher lows, and this will be a level to watch. What is this, like the 420 value? Something in there, thereabouts. Once it breaks out of this and it finds support on this, it'll be very bullish and mark up. I think it's going to have an incredible run. It's going to have an incredible year. XMR is going to be a very good year. And if we look at the BTC pair, let's go to Binance. Oh, very short history. XMR, BTC. If we look at the BTC pair, we see it's actually testing new highs. So it's encountering a bit of turbulence here, but once it clears these highs, it's going to be all systems go. And something to note too is are these B bands. You see that it's actually breaking out of a one-day squeeze. So it's just encountering a little bit of turbulence because it's making aggressive moves upward. But if we look at the 360-minute view, it's just now starting to expand out of this BTC squeeze. So, and if we look at the USD pair, we'll see the same thing. So on the 1 day, so it's very consolidated. B bands are squeezing, and it's if we look at the history, it's around the average level of squeeze for breakouts. Wouldn't be surprised to see a breakout of this, sometime between now and the next couple of days. Would not surprise me at all. So I got a question here, just wondering what's the average amount of time you stay in a trade? It really depends. I used to day trade a lot more, where I would enter and exit positions on the daily basis. But it's very time consuming, and a lot of times, unless you're just like very on the ball, you actually aren't making as much profit as you would if you trade on the macro basis. So that's why I'm focusing more on accumulation and distribution phases, so that I can watch things on a higher time scale, like a 12-hour or a 1-day view. And I generally don't like to trade below 60-minute candles. That's like the absolute lowest I like to look for trend. And then if I look for entry, I'm looking at the 15-minute to like really time my entry so I can maximize my fun time at Wally World. But in general, I try to trade more macro than micro because it's just the time consumption is just not worth it, in my opinion. Can you do BCH? Yeah, I'm getting there. So so if we look at BCH on the 1 day, this is where it starts to get very interesting. I've been holding a large amount of BCH for a while, so I have a specific interest in BCH because I think it's going to perform very well. But here's something very interesting. So let's draw this little trend line here. So if we look at the B bands here, these are 1-day candles. If you look at the where'd my pen go? If we look at the 1 day, the B bands are very consolidated on the USD pair. They're actually slightly below the average level for breakouts. So we see a strong breakout here. We see a strong breakout here. And now we see consolidated B bands, consolidated volume, and price is in this like bull pennant sort of thing. Which means that it's likely going to have a sustained move upward. So if we're looking at the triangle here, we saw a triangle here, and then we saw, how many days? About 2 weeks of price markup starting here. So keep an eye out on this triangle here, because we'll zoom in a little bit so we can see it better. But there's a triangle here that let's make this red. Is that good? No, let's make it purple, pink. There we go. So if we look at this triangle here, it's pretty clean. You see these wicks that are outliers here and here, but overall it is a fairly clean triangle. So keep an eye out on this price level here. And let's get rid of the B bands too. But we see it on the 4 hour and on the 6 hour. It really starts to look fairly clean. Keep an eye out on this trend here, because a breakout above could be a very bullish event, because we can draw a lot of similarities here. So if you look at the 4 hour view, the hell is this? I don't really know why that's there, but I'll leave it. Okay, so we see the trading range here. We see a trading range here, and we see a very clean breakout of the triangle from the past. So look for a similar event to happen here, because it's been reaccumulating this whole time. So BCH USD is looking very bullish, and if you look at the BTC pair, it looks even more bullish. So one day, similar sort of idea with the B bands starting to squeeze. But if we look at the BCH pair on something with a little bit more detail, like the 4 hour view, we see we're in a nice accumulation trading range right here. So remember how I told you about the BUEC, the back up to the edge of the creek? Whoops. Back up to the edge of the creek. So that's what we're seeing here. So so we see the first creek, we see the second creek, and this right here is an example of the BUEC. So backed up to the edge of the creek, and now it's bouncing back off, because we see here a jump across the creek here, and we see a jump across the creek here. High price spread, lots of aggressive upward movement, and then similarly, we see the back up to the edge of the creek here. So overall, I think BCH BTC looks really good, and it looks ready for markup. It doesn't look like distribution. This looks like a reaccumulation, because we see the spring, jump across the creek, and now we're seeing a nice response here. So would the first target for BCH be the all-time high of around 4K? That's a good question. No, the first target is going to be these levels of the trading range. Get on there. So right in here. So first target's going to be, if it breaks upward, is going to be obviously this this triangle boundary. Second target's going to be these levels of the trading range here. So it has a lot of work ahead of it, but it's not out of the question. I think it could totally make a new all-time high, the next month or so. So let's look at OMG as well, because that's one that I've been talking about for a while. OMG is still looking like a good buy, in my opinion. We see macro, let's get rid of these B bands here. So macro reaccumulation between September and the start of the year. So reaccumulation here. We see higher highs, higher lows, and it is now in the markup phase. Markup phase. But you know, I wouldn't be surprised to see a reaccumulation trend start to see, because overall we see volume is going down. And if we look at the B bands, where is it? B bands. On higher time scales like the 12-hour, they're starting to squeeze. Price is consolidating, volume's consolidating. And what are the one day? What's the one day look like? One day's still fairly wide. So, but overall, you know, it's like consolidating right now. We see the price oscillating. You know, it's consolidating in a patterns like this. A nice symmetrical triangle. Price target would be like, what is this? This is 18 bucks. This is 28. So a $10 move if it breaks out or breaks down. So it could be -10 or +10, depending on how it breaks this trend. I mean, my money's on +10 because of this trend, this red trend line right here. And the fact that it broke out of accumulation here. So I have a price target of, once it breaks this, what is this price level? This is, let's call it 26. So if it goes plus 10, it'd be like 36 bucks. But if it breaks down, what is this? Let's call this 20. Yeah, it has a -10. Ooh, Jesus. As a minus, I don't see it going to $10. That just seems unrealistic to me. Given the level of accumulation and the time that's spent accumulating, this just does not seem likely to me. And so how can we further justify that argument? If we go to like the EMAs, they're still looking very bullish. So I don't see any reason for it to revisit $10. That would be a very aggressive move. And I find it highly unlikely. Yeah, this is looking very bullish. So, and we see it here, like the slope of the 50 and the 200 heading upward. Probably just needs to pull back a little bit. Pull back. But you see it's finding support on this 50 EMA very nicely. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to see maybe a pullback to 19, but given the trend that it's consolidating in and the fact that the volume's consolidating, I think a move down to retest the 50 EMA isn't likely. Maybe on the 360, you know, because the triangle is like something like this. You know, something like that. Maybe even something like this. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that. But overall, this trend line has been a really nice, you know, not a firm support, but overall it's giving us the general direction of things. You know, it's pinged off it quite a few times. Maybe it'll retest it, but overall, very bullish on OMG. Does breakout mean a rapid or also a usually / healthy rise after sideways movement? It doesn't necessarily mean a rapid. I mean, it depends on what you mean by rapid. But a breakout means it's broken this trend and it's starting a new trend, either in an upward or downward direction. Depending on who you talk to, breakout usually means upward, but I say breakout to mean it breaks out of the trend, so it could move down or up. You look at GNT. Yeah, we can look at GNT. You find a... Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go talk about Siacoin. Let's talk about Siacoin. So here's Siacoin here. And let's actually turn on the Bollinger Bands for this one, because they're especially useful. Except for this shit. Wish there was a way to like automatically trim that off. Okay, so if you trade Bollinger Bands, this should give you a big smile on your face, because this should look really familiar. This is a classic Bollinger Band squeeze with consolidated volume and a bottom. So these are 6-hour candles. This is Siacoin USD, and this is on Bittrex. But we see very consolidated B bands here. We see a nice consolidated price, consolidated volume, and I've been waiting for this for a while because I bought Siacoin a little too early. I added to my position like right in here, and then it just dropped. But that's okay. I'm in it for the long haul. So if you look at the 12-hour view, boom, that's what we want to see. We see a nice squeeze on the Bollinger Bands. And if we look at the history of the Bollinger Band squeezes, it's like right at the average level of squeeze. It might need some more consolidation before breaking out, but Siacoin is back on my radar for, you know, it's on my breakout anytime now list, because we see consolidated volume, we see, why is this defaulting to pink? I hate this. Go to blue. We see consolidated volume, we see consolidated price. If we look at the 240-minute view, I'm sorry, the 360-minute view, this thing is just snaking into tighter and tighter consolidation. For those who are unfamiliar with Bollinger Bands, this basically just, like, think about like a spring, right? So if you have a spring, I'm going to attempt to draw something. All right, so this is like a little platform. Boom. And you have like a little spring below it, right? The harder you push down on the spring, or the harder you push on the platform, the tighter the spring gets, and then the larger the push. So the tighter these B bands get, the more consolidated the price movement has become, and usually the larger the move. And you can see it here, right? So look how tight these B bands got here, and look at this aggressive move here as it went 3x here. So this was like $3, and it marked up, it was like 4x almost, because it went up to $12, I think, something like that. And now it's consolidating. So this just looks incredibly bullish, and something that gives me added confidence that this is going to break upward is look how the volume is trending up throughout the whole length of this. Volume is just growing, it's swelling. This looks incredibly bullish. I really think Siacoin has the potential to be one of those coins where like people aren't paying attention to it, and then one day they look down and they're like, what the fuck? Siacoin was like half of a penny a month ago. Why is it up 20x? Well, all the signs are there, right? This isn't a pump and dump. This is large scale accumulation leading to large scale markup, and all the signs are there. So I think Siacoin is a really great buy right now, but that's not financial advice, so don't go buying based on my opinion. For those of you guys in the chat that just post coin symbols, I'm not going to respond to them because I'm not a jukebox. If you'd like to have an actual conversation with me like a human being, then I'm more than happy to participate in that. But if you just type LTC in the chat, I'm not going to respond to that. Strat BTC seems to be having a golden cross. Interesting. Okay, let's take a look at it. What is it? Strat BTC on the 1 day. It sure as hell is. Yep. Yeah, good catch. Okay, it's not having the golden cross yet, but it's definitely verging on it, which is nice because it had a lengthy reaccumulation. So reaccumulated for 1, 2, 3, 4 months, and it's just now testing the breakout. So this looks like a solid buy on the BTC pair here. Yeah, it's testing the breakout here. The only thing that's slightly discouraging is that volume is actually decreasing on the way up. So that's a little funny. Yeah, this is interesting because it's clearly breaking out of reaccumulation. It's bottomed out, but the volume just looks like shit. I'm not sure what to make of that. What do the B bands look like? Because it might just need to it might just need to consolidate. So B bands are pretty stretched out. Oh, okay. So here's something interesting. Remember that on Ether Bitcoin how I said there was a B bands double top? This thing might be doing a B bands double top here on the 1 day. Interesting. Okay, so this thing might be doing a little double top here, where it reaccumulates. So we see here that the 1 day B bands are pretty stretched out. Volume's dying down, so it might just need to consolidate for a lengthy period of time before it breaks out. But it's trending above the 200 EMA, the 50 EMA, like next candle. It looks like we'll see a golden cross here. So keep an eye out for Strat BTC. That's a good find. Okay, yeah, everyone's saying QUTM. All right, QUTM. QUTM, let's look at QUTM Bitcoin. Oh, that trend looks like shit. Okay. All right, that looks like shit. Let's see QUTM USD. Jesus. Out of here with that shit. So QUTM. Is consolidating on the B bands. It never retested this 50 EMA here. So I wonder if we'll see a test of this 50 EMA before it moves upward. And also, no. Damn, this thing gets wicked a lot. Jesus. Look at all these wicks on here. Man, this trend looks like shit. I would not trade this on intervals lower than 6 hours. Honestly, like, if I were looking to get into QUTM, which I'm not necessarily, I would keep an eye on these B bands because they're pretty squeezed, pretty consolidated. Could probably stand to consolidate a little bit longer. This looks like a coin that I would just, if you're on TradingView, I would set an alarm on my B bands to not even look at this coin until it consolidates a little bit longer, or if the price breaks above the B bands. But right now it kind of looks like shit. Like I don't see anything particularly noteworthy. I mean, volume's consolidating, price is consolidating, but it's very choppy. Like, look at all these wicks, it's crazy. I mean, you can basically just draw a straight line through this. I bought 2 of Wyckoff's books, and I'm thinking about pulling the trigger on 3-month subscription to your Discord. Cool. Does your Discord provide educational resources, though, besides streams? Yeah, so if you're thinking of like formal educational resources, like where I'm like, here, this is a step-by-step approach on how to trade, no, because I think everyone trades differently, and I don't think that that's appropriate for me to do. But if you're talking about like, do I provide content that will open you to new trade strategies? Yes. Like I have a lot of different sections in my references and my trade strategies strategies that I don't even necessarily employ. Like for a while, people have been using Ichimoku in my Discord, but I've been focusing on things like B-bands, and now I'm starting to go back and learn Ichimoku. But it's a group effort. Everyone is contributing. That's why I like to call it a trading community, not necessarily a trading group, because it's a group effort. Like everyone's in it together, and we're all learning together. No one person has all the answers, and together we like to pool our ideas together and discuss the markets, not necessarily in a debate style forum, but like in a way that we can come to a general consensus about market activity. And to be honest with you, like what I find to be the most beneficial, I think most of the guys in here that are in the Discord will agree, are the different coin analysis sections where everyone's throwing their ideas together. And, if someone has something wrong, sometimes, I get proven wrong too. Like if I'm like, hey, this looks like this, and someone's like, well, actually, historical data supports this, we're constantly expanding, constantly learning. But in terms of like an actual like textbook style educational material, no, just because I don't learn that way, and so I don't really spend the time to do that. The Discord server is where you have quote unquote many eyes, no tunnel vision. Yeah, that's right. I agree with that. It had same kind of wicks before it broke out. What do the wicks indicate, if anything? That it's been very volatile. It's been very choppy. Up and down, up and down, up and down. Hello everyone, just made it. Hello, Susan Az. The volume is still higher than normal though. Well, depends on what you mean by normal. Can you share your thoughts on ADA BTC? Yeah, ADA BTC. Oh boy, okay. So, let's get rid of these EMAs. They don't look particularly. Let's get rid of the 200. So 80. So ADA. This is Cardano, right? ADA is Cardano. I really don't know shit about Cardano, and it's like one of the top market cap coins. So ADA Let's see. Ooh. Okay, so a couple things pop out here. First of all, so on the 12-hour, we see very consolidated B bands. We saw a test of the 50 EMA where it bounced. Cool. We see price starting to consolidate about the center line of the B bands. So here, price is consolidating. But something that sticks out very bearishly to me is this volume trend. It is non-existent, especially compared to the price movement, right? So it jumped from 3,000 Satoshis to 9,000. So let's do some quick math real quick. Like that. So from here to here, this was 3x. From here to here, this was, what is this? 600 to 2,600? I don't want to do that math. Let's say 2,400. So let's say this is 2,400. Let's say this is 9,000. Let's say this is 600. So jump from here to here is 4. Jesus, come on. 4x. And let's actually call this 4x as well. Not because I want it to be cleaner, but because the math actually is more accurate. So let's say this is 4x too. So the price jumped 4x on half the volume it had during accumulation, okay? And then it jumped 4x again on like a fraction of the volume it had during this jump. So this looks sort of sketchy, and it looks sort of like it might see a pullback. If we look at, what does it look like on the 6-hour? Okay, so it's bouncing off. Is it 200 EMA? Does it have enough history yet? Okay, so overall, the trend is still bullish. It might just need time to consolidate a bit longer. Like, look at this volume trend. It's not looking good. So this might need some time to consolidate here. I personally wouldn't be looking to buy it just yet. So let's go ahead and draw a quick trading range here. So here's a top. There is a bottom. And let's get rid of the Bollinger Band to start drawing on this. Probably draw one more line here. Something like that. Let's look at the lower time frames. Okay, so on the 120-minute view, okay, so this leading up to this run, it had a very nice, okay, let's start drawing on here. Leading up to this run here, had a very nice accumulation in here, had a very nice accumulation in here, and it kind of freaked out and jumped up. So now it looks like it's doing like a bit of a macro accumulation here because it retraced. God damn, it retraced down to 4K. Wow. So this is 9K, 9,000 Satoshis. Here's 4,000. Here. This is going to need to reaccumulate. If it wants to see more markup, this needs to reaccumulate longer. Like a lot, because it had a very significant markup in a very short amount of time. And that's the danger of buying these coins that are like freaking out like this, is because like you don't ever really know when the last shove is going to be. So maybe this sees another all-time high, but if I had to guess, I would have to guess that it's going to consolidate a lot. It's going to have to. because the volume's just not there, right? There's no volume. Like, it's very weak. So those are my thoughts on ADA. I bought Cardano at 1.15 cents. I don't know what that means. Let's see. ADA USD. Bought at 1.15 cents. Oh, damn. Sorry to hear that. Jesus. Dude. This thing dropped down to 50 fucking cents. Jesus. What? That is crazy. Wow. Okay. The USD pair looks even worse. Had a little inverted head and shoulders. Cool. Popped up, faked everyone out, and then it dropped again. Yeah. Well, best of luck to you. Hope that works out for you. Cardano did great yesterday when most crypto was negative. Really? Because I don't really see it doing a whole lot here. Kind of just didn't do anything. The tip is it will reach $10 this year from a US friend. That sounds reliable. Alright, well, hope that works out. Could you please do VEN and LTC? Neo is blasting off. So getting another push. It's not really doing a whole lot right now. I guess it's getting a little bit of love. That's the danger of looking at these smaller timescales, dude. Don't really want to do that. So here's the problem too, is that it's got this upper resistance here that it hasn't actually tested just yet. I mean, it's seen a little bit of a test, but if it tests it, it sets it up for a double top on the B bands. So be careful. Yeah, we'll see, but I mean, who knows? Maybe this was the BUEC here, but I don't buy it yet. I think it's going to do something like this, you know. So it broke down, and then it makes a new high, and then it slowly bleeds down. I don't buy that it's going to break out. Maybe it will. Maybe I'll be proven wrong in the stream, but I'll be surprised to see it break out and find support and keep going upward. I think it needs to retrace a little bit more. Because if you see here, so here's a little pro tip here. So you see that there's a lot of volume here, but there's not a lot of price movement. So that means there's a lot of selling and a lot of profit taking going on in here. So narrow candle spread, high volume, lots of selling, combined with lots of buying. You know, just be careful. Cardano, what is this? Yesterday, Cardano was, okay. It would need, he made $1.5 million trading last year. Okay, well that's fine. Don't ever look at someone's profit as like an indication of being a good trader. I mean, what did he start with? What were his percent gains? What coins was he trading? Did he just throw money into Bitcoin? What did he start with? What did he end with? What is his track record? You know, like, just because someone says I made $1.5 million trading, that really doesn't mean shit. Because what if they started with 1.4? You know, like, they doubled their money? That's awesome. That's not very impressive for the crypto market. Can you check Strat, please? I just did check Strat. I already did that. ETC needs some rocket fuel. Yeah, I've been watching ETC. I was tracking that pretty closely, but man, did it break my heart. ETC. You guys want to look at, what is it? Everyone's talking about TRX. Okay. Oh, look at that. So, this is TRX BTC. Oh, it's only BTC and Ether pairs. Okay. Whoa, look at that volume. Interesting. So first thing that pops out is there are a lot of people trying to call bottom here. Oh, what the hell's going on? A lot of people are trying to call bottom here. But I would not be surprised to see lower lows out of this because look at these, look at the EMAs here. So we had a death cross here, price is just slowly bleeding out. People are trying to call bottom here. It bounced, but it failed to rally. What do the B bands look like? This chart does not look very good, I'll be honest with you. I think you'll probably get some lower lows out of this. Which is crazy because it popped up to 2K and now it's down to 600. Jesus. Rip everyone who bought over here. Fucking hell, dude. You guys got raped from that. So, yeah, this just doesn't look good. I mean, there are just like basic indicators that this isn't done falling. You know, if we're looking at like lower time frames, you see a pretty clear trend. You know, something like that. Let's get rid of the B bands, clean this up a little bit. You know, it's making lower highs. It fell aggressively, it responded aggressively, and now it's continuing downward. Making lower lows. I don't think this is bottomed out yet. Maybe I'll be proven wrong. But most likely what's going to happen, in my opinion, but what the fuck do I know, is, okay, so we see here that it responded and rejected this price level. Let's move this up a little bit. So it rejected this price level, which was a point of support before. I broke below to try to get back above it. So it's very possible, and this is a lot of times this happens with this accelerated selling. So something interesting happens with selling, typically before accumulation is. So we see aggressive response, right? It flattens out. We see a little bit more aggressive. It slowly tapers in. It picks up, and then we see a sharp drop. So I think we'll see one more low out of this, you know, somewhere in here. I don't know, and then that will be considered the selling climax, and we'll enter into a trading range. Ooh, it'll enter into an accumulation trading range in here. I mean, take that with a big fucking piece of salt. I'm totally spitballing here, but this just looks like the classic entry into an accumulation trading range, where this would be, you know, last point of support, drops down. You know, we'll see some sort of low. We'll see a secondary test, or I'm sorry, an AR. You know, and it'll start to accumulate here for fucking ever and grind down everyone who bought in here. It'll make them lose all their faith, you know. Hashtag remind me in 3 months. But I think it needs to reaccumulate. It just looks really bad. I think it's going to make a new low, though. Squeeze out one more low, get an AR, and then it'll start to do the accumulation in here. You know, and it'll drag out for like another month or 2. Maybe even 3. It'll probably find support here. I don't know. I'm totally spitballing here, guys, so. You do Monero already? Yeah, I did Monero. Siacoin isn't doing anything. I beg to differ, my man. Siacoin looks like it's ready to give birth to a brand new bull trend. All right, let's do like, how long have we been streaming here? An hour? 2 hours? Something like that? Do like, oh, I got some requests from the Discord. Sorry, guys. Could you tap BCH BTC? All right, did it. You look at EOS, did it. QUTM, did it. GNT, BTC looks like a nice pennant. It's interesting because it looks like it bottomed out for now, but I don't see a clear accumulation or anything. Okay, let's look at GNT. What is GNT? Is that Golem? I forget. Golem network token? Is that what it is? BTC. Oh, that just got added, didn't it? Let's do BTC on Bittrex or something. Yeah, it does look like a big ass bull pennant, doesn't it? Oh, Yahtzee. There we go. This is beautiful. Okay. So, thank you, Jukaluk, for pointing this out. This is what we like to see here. All right, so this is going to be a great experiment here. Glad I looked at the Discord because this is beautiful. Where's my, there we go. Okay, so you know, back in June after Ether had its like raging boner fest to 420 before crashing down to like 130, all of its tokens just started shitting, right? And so this was one that took a really massive hit, and once it dropped below this price level, people were like, oh my god, it's the end of the world and I'm gonna cry. But hang in there, boys, because I've got some good news for you. This is a great accumulation trading range here. Let me draw some lines on here. And for someone that's in the Discord, can you add this to the list of the Wyckoff watch list, or at least message me about it so I can remember? Because this is going to be a coin to keep a really close eye on. I'm going to buy the shit out of this. This is on Bittrex, right? Yeah, on Bittrex. Okay. So, let's draw some lines. So, this is a point of interest. This is a point of interest. This is a point of interest. Okay. This is also a point of interest. And let's extend this a little farther back. And let's make this a different color so it stands out. Let's make this like orange and make it thick. This is interesting too. Okay. No, you don't get orange and thick, you get blue and thin. What else can we draw from this? Okay. So this is a beautiful fucking... Okay, let's talk about this, because this is going to be a great case study. Alright, yeah. Alright, let's start drawing some shit on this. Okay, so this is going to be a great case study. We'll keep an eye on this over the next few streams, so let me write this on my board here. GNT Okay. This will be our next Siacoin. Okay, this is the next Siacoin, because this is macro accumulation. Okay, with this being a spring, so we see a spring, where it's below the trading range, jump across the creek, so let's say JAC, here is BUEC, and right here, this is a major sign of strength, where it's making this big ass bull pennant. Volume's consolidating. I'd be willing to bet the B bands are consolidating. I'll pull that up in a second. We've got a golden cross. I bet the 12 hours is probably going to be a golden cross as well. If not, yeah, golden cross in the 1 hour or the 12 hour. What does the 1 day look like? Probably about to be a golden cross. Yeah. What do the B bands look like here? Consolidating. Nice. So this is the 12-hour B bands consolidating. 6 hour, very consolidated. How did I know? Okay. So this is about to do a Siacoin move. So if you remember at the beginning of December when we started talking about Siacoin, this is like exactly what Siacoin did. In fact, let's go back and look at it and compare. Yeah, this will be the silver pony. So, Siacoin, USD, or let's do BTC. And let's do the 6 hour view. This looks identical. Oh, what do I have to multiply it by 10, don't I? Siacoin, BTC times 10. Yeah. Okay, so if you were here back in December, Damn, this is like identical. That's crazy. All right, let's go to the B band so it cleans it up a little bit. Let's actually do the 12-hour view. That's 72, 720. All right, so here's the golden pony. Here's the silver pony. So let's go ahead and chart this. So right now, if you're Golem, you're in this giant bull pennant. If you're Siacoin back in December, we're right here. Macro accumulation, all accumulation. Major sign of strength, MSOS, right at the breakout. So we'd be right here. This looks fucking identical. That is incredible. 2 touches on the bottom, 3 on the top, 3 on the top, 2 on the bottom. This looks very identical. I'm gonna go over to Bittrex right now and buy some of this. I'm sorry, buy some of this because Golem looks like a great buy right now. Wow. I would not be surprised to see a major markup like this fucking immediately, maybe. This looks like a great coin to buy. What does the Ichimoku look like? The fuck? Where am I? What does the 1 day look like? Boom. That's what we want to see right here. Okay. This looks bullish as fuck on the 1 day Ichimoku. Alright. So this will be a great case study. We'll follow this over the next month. We'll update it like once a week. Or if you're in my Discord, we'll update it every day. But this looks like it's going to be the next Siacoin, in my opinion. Yeah, BFX is on BFX, or Golem's on BFX now too. Yeah, I know, but I have a chunk of coin allocated on Bittrex that I'll just shift over to Golem here. Need to access the Discord. I joined and got a message. Oh, hey, buddy. I see you. What is your name? What is your username on Discord? I'll give you access right now. Oh, Juan. All right. Go ahead and give you Discord access right now. Okay, and I see someone else joined too. Okay, so this looks great. This is a great find. I'm really excited about that one. Okay. Well, I think that's enough streaming time for right now. Got a lot of people watching, but I just covered a shitload of coins, so it should be enough to get your minds going. And you know, if you want to have access to this sort of information every day, where everyone's discussing this and everyone's participating in these trades and active updates on the markets, then go to bitcoinschmitcoin.com and join the community and up your trading game, bro. But in the meantime, if you don't want to do that, that's fine. Go ahead and one thing you can do that'll help support me and increase my viewership is just like the video, share it, watch it on Twitch. A lot of different ways to support me on a free day-to-day basis. But in the meantime, that's all I got. My mouth is dry. I need more water. And you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the community or on the next stream. Bye.